because we're probably going to start recording before I start. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele Francis, and we have a big panel here today. We have Nick up top. Say hello, Nick.
Hello, Nick.
And we also have Michelle doing, we haven't done a Big Brother one since the premiere, I think.
Yeah.
So Michelle is back. Say hi.
Hi.
And we have Brazil here. Say hi, Brazil.
Hello.
And so if this is your first time on Reality Realness, well then welcome. Make sure you subscribe right down below. We love talking about reality TV and all the gossip, if there is any, that goes along with it. So today we're kind of doing a bit of a weekly catch-up, we'll say. We're going to start on episode 6 of Big Brother Allstars, season 22. So episode 6 all the way up to the most recent episode, which is the live eviction of a queen. So how did this happen? How did this queen fall from grace? Let's go back to, I guess, episode 6. So that was the Veto episode. Who can just remind me as to what the heck happened that day? Nick?
Yeah, it was the veto competition. They had to stand on those slanted platforms holding the tray with the ball on it, and not many people did well, and then obviously the winner and Tyler did well. So yeah, Ian and Nicole Anthony and Nicole Franzel, I think. Yeah, those 3 were out pretty early, and it came down to David, Tyler, and Memphis. David started screaming, trying to psych people out, which I thought was pretty funny. But then he looked up at Memphis and knocked himself out, because it takes 1 second to knock yourself out.
You want to keep that concentration going, especially for those challenge. Actually, beforehand, though, was the safety suite competition, which I think also really important to kind of the fall of this queen. Nicole Anthony, you know, everybody's having meetings with Memphis as to obviously not wanting to go up and this and that. And Memphis is trying to enforce that everybody doesn't play. And so this, I guess, happened on the Sunday's episode before, but it kind of came up again, the fact that she chose not to play in the safety suite competition. And what ends up leading to Nicole Anthony's kind of downfall is that she felt as though she had a connection with Janelle and Kaser, that Janelle and Kaser were in an alliance with Memphis, and they made her feel that she was comfortable and that she didn't have to play in the safety suite competition. So what do you think about this, Nick, like as like new information? Because she very much blamed Janelle and Kaser for making her feel too comfortable to not play, even though that's not true.
I mean, Memphis was kind of sloppy in his delivery. He was obviously saying, and he was prefacing by saying, I'm telling this to everyone, go play, don't feel too safe. So he gave a generic warning to everyone, and Nicole was like, no, he doesn't boss me around, I don't need to listen to him. But it's like, sure, you can feel that way, but he's the head of household, and you have to realize if he tells you and you don't, it's a great reason to nominate you. So kind of got to play his game at that point.
Exactly.
So
like it was the same as last week.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said last season, I think she kind of was carrying over her resentment from, or like I said last episode, I was talking about last season. I think she's carrying over the resentment of kind of listening to Mickey a lot, and was kind of like, I'm going to do my own thing. Like, I'm not going to listen to him. And then she didn't have enough time in between seasons, I think, to.
And also something that I think she was talking about in this episode too, is that, you know, Janelle is drinking wine and laughing with Memphis up there. And what I think is so crazy is that she took that all as signs, like a confirmation bias, that they were doing something against her. And it would be nothing that I would ever be thinking at all, which I think is so interesting about how her downward spiral really became like this storm that Kaser and Janelle really couldn't get out
But
of.
I think it was everyone else putting that in her head too, though.
100%. I don't remember how much it showed of it, but Kevin, like, you know, has been really enforcing how horrible Janelle is and that he doesn't like Kaser. And like, he's been putting this in Nicole Anthony's ear. And I don't know why she made a final two with someone that's also like on the outside. Like, if you're gonna make a final two with someone, make a final two with someone that's like useful in your game. You know what I mean? Like, not someone that's on the bottom like you.
Making final two deals is not her forte.
I learned in this particular episode that she's definitely not a good Big Brother player. And I think that we gave her a lot of credit last season because of the situation that she was in and that she was still fighting and willing to stick around. But her downfall was just it made her unlikable, which I thought was really unfortunate. You know, like I really was supporting her before.
Yeah, she got really influenced by the popular kids, which is like the classic alliance of the past few seasons once again. And like they kept putting it in her ear day in, day out. And so she believed it. And she shouldn't have, because Janelle was fighting for her. And it would have been amazing if all those outsiders come together. But even regardless of Nicole, the rest of them aren't really coming together anyway. So
do you think if she hadn't fallen for it and she's like, you know what, I'm reading body language, I'm trusting what they tell me, I'm with Janelle and Kaser, they do have my back, I'm gonna ignore all the people, do you think they could have changed anything about it and rallied the votes after the veto competition had already been set that Memphis wasn't using it?
Maybe, because I think one thing that was happening, I believe it was that episode where Kaser was in there, was Kaser, Janelle, Christmas, Nicole, Devon, Bailey, and Kevin were all in one room, and they were kind of having, like, you know, Kaser's doing like, we need to come together, like we need to take down this big group, and you know, then Nicole Anthony says, okay, you two leave. If you'd seen it on the feeds, like she was so rude about it. She's like, yeah, you two get out of here now. Like I'm gonna talk to these guys. And as soon as she kicked them out of the room, she's like, yeah, I know that they're horrible. Like I understand if you don't want to vote for me. Like, and she completely just went on the narrative that everybody else has been going on and being like, oh, they're terrible people, we don't want to side with them. And she's like, well, like, you know, I know that we need their vote. I need their vote, but like I'm not on their side. I'll go after them. Let's just keep them so you can keep me. And like they wouldn't go for that. And then she just started like bashing them again. So if you want somebody to do something for you, don't give them more reason to not.
No.
I think that just shows how much people were lying to Janelle and Kaser, because it never got back to them that Nicole Anthony was like trashing both of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not sure if it would have changed the outcome, because I don't think Janelle and Kaser ever knew the truth, the full truth at least.
Yeah, they definitely didn't know the truth then. Sorry, Michelle, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say, yeah, I think she knew of anything, okay, Nicole F's obviously talking shit and like whatever, but she had no idea and that about like Danielle and Memphis, like all these people, like they didn't know the breadth of what the alliance really was.
And even if Nicole Anthony is somebody that should have been in their kind of alliance, like they were talking quite a bit, and like I thought we were so excited when we saw like Kaser and Nicole Anthony talking to the kitchen. I'm like, oh, that'd be such a great team. Like so excited for that to flourish. And you know, if Nicole Anthony just even brought the intel that Kevin was bad-mouthing them, or that Devon didn't believe her all the time, or that Christmas, like just bring them that intel that like, oh yeah, people are not believing you that much. They'd be like, oh my God, okay, I didn't know that. Like they didn't know that every single person, even including Bailey, which I was like, that's the only thing that's been disappointing me about Bailey this season, is that she hasn't been fully honest with Janelle with what's been going on and how she's been feeling about certain things. But Nicole was just a little bit more forthright, they would have realized that their approach is completely not working. But everybody's just lying to their face, talking about them behind their backs, saying that they're terrible people, and like, why are they fighting so hard? It's like they're fighting so hard because you told them that they have your vote.
Making fun of them for playing Big Brother, which makes me
literally
so angry.
But playing in the dark a bit.
Like, don't even get me started about. Later, we'll talk about the feeds last night. I watched it till 4 a.m.
I need to hear.
Nicole and Danny are the meanest girls ever. I would never in a million years get along with them in real life. Nope.
I can't wait to hear about that because I stopped. I only watched a little bit last night.
I slept all day. I worked night shifts, so I slept all day, and then I was awake literally until 4 4:23 a.m. was when they stopped. They went to bed, and it was very telling of everything. So
excited.
Still can't stop talking about Janelle.
So they didn't show this on the episode, Nick, I don't think, but another part of it was around this time, David, did we talk to you about this? David starts talking to Nicole Anthony, telling her that she had the votes, that he had the votes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said it before or after. I think it was before the veto, actually, that he did say it.
It was right after nominations. We talked about it last Reality Realness. And they showed them talking, and I commented to you that it's like he's sitting there, he's like rubbing her back, they're hugging, just like the scene you described, and then it just cuts off to being like, yeah, we're in this together. Like that's the tone of the conversation. Is all the editors wanted us to see was, we're in this together. Yeah, it sucks to be on the block against you. So they didn't show that part, and I think they're trying to defend people's games to the
casual
layman viewer, such as myself, that not to tarnish anyone's reputation.
You're called a casual viewer?
A casual, yes.
Nick, I can't believe you're a casual.
What, Brazil?
I said, I can't believe Nick's a casual.
I am obsessive. I get super obsessive about things, and I know that as soon as I crack that egg open, I'm just going to be going into live feeds every minute of the day. I have nothing to do all day. I'd rather have friends over. I'd rather play video games, be social. I would get so immersed in it, and then I think I would feel empty on the inside.
I mean, what I like about the feeds is that I understand the gameplay more, and I'm not the episode doesn't warp the truth from me. Like I know
it's funny to kind of hold production accountable sometimes, or like maybe they're like, why aren't they showing this when this has been all the talk on feeds, but then they're only showing a certain part. So yeah,
I think they're probably trying to make sure that people don't hate on house guests even more, and if you just show them being nice and good and just the game flowing in the way it's going, you don't need to show Nicole saying that David saying that insensitivity to Nicole. You don't need to show everyone being vicious to Janelle. Just
because it was part of her spiral, right?
Yeah.
And so it was part of her like being like, oh my God, they set me up. They made me look like a fool. Like, oh my God, like it was their plan all along. They just wanted they just threw me out there to the wolves. They don't care about, you know what I mean? It just perpetuated that downward spiral of hers. And so I do think it was important just to see what the heck happened. I don't even think that they've been very good with telling the story of what happened to Janelle's gameplay. Even tonight, like last night in the eviction episode, like what Julie declared wasn't even the full truth of what had happened up until that point.
It was that Kevin was on her, like Kevin, Devon, and Bailey. Like Devon even said in the episode, like she's got to go. Kevin was, maybe to some people he was campaigning for Janelle, but at the end of the day, he was campaigning, whatever that person was saying, he was just agreeing with. So Kevin wasn't like team Janelle or Kaser, in my opinion.
I think they all saw the benefit of having Janelle in the game, not going after them, but no one wanted to actually make it happen or do anything about it when it comes to voting or campaigning for them. So then they just kind of be like, it'd be nice. I'm not against it, but I'm not going to stick my neck out for it.
Yeah.
They all sit at like 6th place in an alliance. I'm like, why hasn't, in my opinion, Bailey, Davon, Kevin, Chris Smith, like why haven't they talked about Ian? Like what? Like ooh, like we all can't be number 6 or number 4. Like there's too many of us in this house. Like we all must be promised something. And why is the other people not even part of this discussion?
I think it's all the overlapping alliances with every single person, almost in every alliance, with like minus 1 or 2 people. Mm-hmm. And so no one wants to like talk about something. But it's happened. I mean, it's happened. Like people have slipped up in front of other people. But I mean, I
wonder why Devon and Bailey were so sure that they weren't on the bottom.
Like 6.
Because they think they're in that 6 and that 4, right?
Christmas is not in that 6. So what is Christmas like what does she think that Bailey and Devon are doing if Christmas is in the 6?
Christmas doesn't think that far, right? So Christmas is kind of dumb, and so she thinks because she's in that main 6 but that she's good.
I mean, she's in the better 6 for sure.
She is, but like so that's why she's not even thinking about Bailey and Davon, thinking, why are they safe? She probably just thinks like, oh, they don't know, ha 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 ha. But really, Bailey and Davon have this other alliance with the boys that's also strong, and like those boys, I mean, it's going to be up in the air if they're going to want to keep them or try to go against like Ian and the winners, and like who knows? They have more options. I hope they do something more interesting than just stick with that first 6.
What are they being like? Well, what's Nicole Francis in if she's not in the Slick 6? Like,
why don't people think about that? Like, that's
no one's even asking anything about that, but I think it's because Danny's leading most of these conversations, and I think along the way she's protecting Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the name of the better 6 that you're talking about? The one we all know, like Christmas, Danny, Frenzel. Do they have a name or no?
The Commission.
No, the Commission is.
Well, that's with
Memphis.
Memphis.
The 2 of them.
Oh, sorry. It's
Slick 6.
Slick 6.
No. Slick 6 is the big one.
It's the committee. You don't have to think about it.
Committee. Yeah, the committee or something like that.
17.
So just maybe the committee all sat down and talked, being like, or spoke, saying, okay, we know Davon and Bailey are wild cards. How about we branch off? And like they're at the new place.
That's not
happened.
That's not what happened.
Really? Okay, so then it sounds just to me like Cody and Danny are running the game.
Yeah, they are.
And Tyler's in a pretty, like, he's in a couple different baskets as well. Like Tyler's also is in both those big alliances. And like, so he's involved quite a bit too. But yeah, Cody for sure has the most, and Danielle has the most. But Cody's in a better position because he wins more competitions. And those boys, like, they know they have a better chance to win against one of each other because they're in the same category.
Yeah.
That it's for the best that they bring each other to the end. And
now that they're just getting rid of any possible competition, like it's going to be a lot easier for them to win. They're going to have a lot less people to go up against. And, you know, some of these crapshoots that are supposed to be for anybody is also being won by these guys. And so right now, I think it's 9 out of 10 competitions that have been played in this entire season have been won by those 4 men or 3 men. Wait, 1, 2, 3. 3 of them.
So something tells me I know who the next HOH is.
well. No.
But anyways, it's all men, you know, it's been what's been going on. And so it's been really pretty unfortunate that like, it doesn't seem like the women are going to have a chance. You know, yes, Danny's in a decent position right now, but people are starting to look at her a little bit as like, you know, wanting to maybe go against her. And I'm happy with it. Like, I kind of want all the girls to be evicted at this point, because if you're going to be so dumb and allow these guys to take control of the game
for the millionth time.
But the irony in the live feed last night, it's no spoilers, it's not jumping ahead, but they were like, oh my gosh, we keep letting all the guys win. I'm like, because you keep evicting all the girls. Why do you, like, just statistically, of course, there's more of them, they have a better chance to win. But when they brought that up, and never mind, then the next part there is a spoiler, but yeah, I'm like, well, you keep trying to get rid of the girls, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, and it's going to be more difficult now. And like, even when I played this like super small Survivor game with Nick a couple weeks ago, like at one point, you know, the weakest person on the tribe was a girl, but I didn't want to lose the girl numbers. I'm like, I want to still keep it 3 guys, 3 girls, like no matter what, like, you know, and like I was pushing that narrative because yes, it might be making this tribe strong, but I never wanted the guys to have upper hand numbers wise. Like I never wanted that to happen. What?
Exactly what I did on my tribe for the first vote, because they were on to get rid of a guy and it was 4 girls, 3 guys. And I was like, no, we got to keep the guy. And I convinced the girl and then we voted out a girl.
But it's just like, I know we don't want to say that like, you know, gender matters. It's not, but like you always want to look for where you have a numbers advantage, right? Like, like you need to put yourself in the best position to have that advantage. And so, you know, it might be best for the house to have all these girls leave. But if the guy's like, hey, let's get rid of these girls, they can just rally them together. It's just an easy sell on changing the number dynamic. And
we've seen tight alliances of men work way stronger than tight alliances of women across all seasons of almost every show, except for on Survivor a couple times, I feel. But yeah, like it's just it does happen often, and we'll see how it plays out. But I also think that the men are quite scared of each other, and this is just the way to survive. Like, you just march through the game the first few weeks to get to that point, then you start making your moves and you do your side alliances, and everyone's kind of setting themselves up well for that.
Just out-compete each other.
Guys kind of have a duo, so kind of Tyler and Cody are a duo.
Memphis and Cody. Enzo and Cody.
Yeah, Cody's got a bunch of final 2s. He also has a final 2 with Nicole F. Nicole F also has a final 2 with Ian.
Yeah.
the Carolinas with
Cody and Enzo.
Yeah.
But we talk about the guys just banding together, but I don't think they're taking Ian or Kaser. So that's already two of the guys gone.
Yeah.
Same with David. He seems on the outs now. So it's like, there's more men, but I also think that they're just as on the chopping block.
But, yeah, forward. The people that are winning are the people that are aligned.
Yeah. I just don't think that it's a safe position, even if I was Danielle and Nicole Franzel and Christmas, to be keeping those 3 to 4 strong guys in the game with me. They will win.
Agreed.
And I don't know if they will take them to the end because like they might think that, you know, there's more girls that are going to be in the jury. So, you know what I mean? There's all of those things are going to play up. And
well, they haven't had a chance to even make a move. The only men that have been in danger on the block Thursday night have been David, Kevin, and Kaser, who are not in those core group of guys. And it's the core group of guys who are winning every competition. Exactly. So they don't have the chance yet. We can't judge it too hard. They haven't had the chance.
They could have campaigned, though, for
Kaser?
A different outcome. Yeah. I mean, they're just...
and they honestly, I mean... I knew David was never going to stay, but I was never going to leave. Sorry, wasn't going to get evicted. But like, and Nicole deserved, based on her horrible gameplay, to go home 1,000%. Yeah. However, David is a horrible strategist and social player. Mm-hmm. Like one of the worst I've seen in terms of just strategy. I'm just talking strategy. Like I like the guy and everything, but like had some poor moments this week.
Did you end up watching them now, Nick? Some of those poor moments?
I watched all those live feed segments you sent me and a few that just kind of auto played afterwards on YouTube. And yeah, he's bumbling. I could see in the storage room when Janelle's talking to him, she's just like in her head, like she's sort of circuiting about why am I even having this type of conversation with this player? And she's like, okay, but I didn't vote you out. Okay, tell me what lie you caught me in. Like, let me address and defend myself. Stop giving into this mob mentality that has been used against me this whole season. And he wouldn't, and he just kept having, well, it's because I don't trust you. Well, I gotta just do this, what I think. Like, he's so bad.
Well, and so bad. That he was bouncing back and forth with too, I don't think they showed it on the episode, was like, he would be saying things like, oh, well, like you were planning to get me out and you're having all these lies and these insinuations to get me out. And he's like, but then you were being so horrible to my friend and you like, he was just like,
yeah.
Both sides. Like you can't want me to stay and want my friend to stay at the same time as well. And so
he was just on the block next to Nicole. That was the only reason that she was campaigning against him. She was campaigning for Nicole, which means against David, unfortunately. But like, it had nothing to do with you specifically. It's just the way that Memphis put the nominees on the block for her to decide.
And if Janelle knew all the lies, or not all the lies, all the shit that Nicole A was talking, she would have I think she would have had a better case for David to be like, look, I didn't know all this was happening behind the scenes. And if I knew that was the case, I would have never campaigned for her to stay. But she didn't even know at that point all that had transpired.
It sounds like Nicole never let herself be in a room with Janelle to get the air cleared. Like she was always leaving or telling them to leave.
She stormed out of the room and acted like a infant.
Maybe she thought it was best for her.
Sad little sad face and demeanor she always has.
She didn't try hard enough.
It irks me so much. Just like the privilege and ego just oozing from her pores. Just like oh, Nicole, I can't. Nicole,
I've been really frustrated with her.
She became everything I hated about last season, which is
yes.
And that's what's really unfortunate because, you know, I feel like she felt as though she was standing up to Jackson and Holly in standing up to Kaser and Janelle, but like really she was just being quite a despicable little brat, really, in how she was even addressing them. She was being short, she's being rude, she was throwing her toys out of the pram, you know, like she was just
you guys didn't try to keep me, you just made sure yourselves were safe. And I'm like, they had no idea Memphis was going to put you up. But she didn't even take the time to ask them, I don't think, from at least what I saw.
To start it all off, she was defiant to Memphis, so he was within every right to use that as an excuse to nominate her. So you can't blame Janelle. You blame yourself for your handling of the conversation Memphis had with you.
Well, Janelle came and told her that. I don't think they showed it on the show. And she's like, oh man, like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know he was doing that. Like, he said that basically he wanted everybody to play in Veto. or in the safety suite, and you didn't play, and that's pretty much one of the reasons why you went up there, because he didn't want to have to compete against you the following week in the safety suite. And
he's not going to have that conversation with Chantele or Kaser, who have already played. He's not going to go. He wasn't going in depth with anyone else. Why would he like talk about that with two people that have already played and like aren't eligible to play? So.
Yeah. So anyway, she didn't try hard enough. That's why Nicole was so mad and was basically bad-mouthing her to everybody around the house, who already had a negative, or have been going on this negative like rant about Chantele and Kaser. And all they were doing is playing the game. They're like, oh, they just want to divide the house. They just want to divide the house. I'm like, yes, they do. They want a shot. They want a shot to say like, oh, you're just doing it for yourself. You're like, they want it for all of
the point. Is the point not to win? Like one person wins, right? Like,
yeah.
How do you think it's interesting for those of us who are watching this 3 times a week to watch one majority, like we're on the lower side of the personality of the house, like run the ship? Like that's not interesting. Even if I like the people, I want there to be an off balance in power. Like it's so uninteresting to have the same people win every time. Like, ugh.
Yeah, obviously a lot of talks about like if the veto is going to be used or not. Who won that veto? It was
Memphis.
Yeah, so Memphis is going to be able to keep his noms the same if they want. Obviously, everybody, Nicole Franzel wants to backdoor Janelle.
Yeah, they were pushing hard on that.
Because Janelle caught on to. Pardon? She walked in on Tyler, Cody, Franzel, and Danny, and then went to Memphis and said, oh, like I walked into a powwow, like they're definitely a foursome, and Memphis is like, oh shit, that's actually my sex couplet. So yeah, and Julie brought that back to her.
Memphis was like, okay, so Julie this week kind of says that Memphis is like the kingpin. I don't think he's the kingpin, but I think that Janelle and Kaser trusting Memphis with information is probably the biggest part of their downfall, is because they were able to have the information to know to go after them and to inflate that narrative of them being horrible people. Yeah, they're horrible. They're coming after us. They're coming after us. And like, they're able to get people on their side about that more easily.
I wouldn't say Memphis is the kingpin. I would say that if anything, if there was a mole this season, Memphis would be the mole. Yeah, like he's doing really good job at being in the middle, being on the sides, controlling the who's mad at who and who's doing what. And he's offering a certain level of chaos in the game that is making people scramble. And I think that's what led to Janelle's and Kaser's downfall a lot as well. And we see that in last night's episode, like when she kind of had that moment where she clicked.
That aha moment killed me. She's like, it's never going to work. Kaser's only going to trust Memphis.
What did we think about Nicole's campaign to stay?
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, her campaign to stay was, let's get out Janelle and Kaser.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
so,
terrible.
Pretty rookie, I would say.
Mean,
go ahead.
Her and David. David didn't really, I feel like, campaign much, because I think he was just comforting Nicole, because I think Nicole knew she was the one going home.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, like, I think they're both just bad players, and I think that if any of us were in the exact same situation as either of them, I think that we would have we would be able to figure out an argument to stay. I didn't feel as though any so far of the campaigning have been actually appealing to the positions that people are in the house. It could be because there's a lot of misinformation that's been going on and a lot of lies, but I think Nicole was kind of in a better position than Janelle was, because she has more information, at least that people don't like Janelle. And I think that I would have probably gone to like Franzel even and be like, listen, like I know that she's up to, she wants you out, but like let's like get her out together, but like keep me, like I'll help you get her out, but I just want to stay in the game and I want to work with you. Like I don't know, like they just didn't use anything that people would have liked, reasons to keep them. Just like, please keep me. Like why? Like I don't need to. Like
I think a big reason why Nicole was so doomed though is just because Tyler and Cody and like that group already pulled David in to a degree, and I think Nicole was a little bit more erratic or untrustworthy, so they knew just, okay, well, it's just easy this week. Keep a number that's already knows about our group and secrets, get rid of another one. And if Janelle and Kaser are defending her, that's even more ammo. I think Nicole was doomed.
That's what I mean when I say that Danny and Nicole could change the outcome, like for a female to stay, but they just don't. They just do whatever the guys want, and the guys wanted David to stay, and then they hate Janelle, and they saw Nicole as an asset to Janelle. Anyone that's with Janelle is a huge target now. So.
Well, I definitely think that her bad mouthing Janelle and them and saying how horrible that she's been to Nicole, I don't think that was helpful in her campaign. Yes, sure, say that like I'm coming for them next and say that to the people that might be interested in that narrative, but she needs to offer something more to them. And I think that she was so self-deprecating and like always just talking so low about herself and just like, I really want to stay here, but like I understand if like you vote me out. It's like, no, like don't give them the I understand if you vote me out, and don't give me like mistake, and don't give them the your decision is your decision. Like don't give them any of that. Like give them concrete reasons why you're better for their game moving forward.
And I think Nicole's the only one that's done that this season so far.
It was uphill. Well. It's uphill for Nicole to try and convince Nicole Franzel, because Nicole Franzel obviously likes to work with men in this game. So I think that was like using the women thing wouldn't have worked on her, but use the mistrust and the hate on for Janelle, spin it to the opposite of why you trust them so much. Be like, Janelle's coming to me, I don't trust her at all because I trust what you're feeding me. And whether it's true or not, just that you're doubling down on your trust for that side of the house because of your mistrust for Janelle could prove better, and maybe try and make David look untrustworthy and bring up Devon and Bailey, or I don't know, like you could spin it in so many ways, but I think that's something that we have the privilege of seeing from outside the house of what she could have done within the game to do better at campaigning.
We try harder in general.
Us as individuals, but us as viewers, we also see these ways that Nicole could have done a better job to maybe have a chance, because we're seeing the full narrative. We're seeing it play out. And in the house, she might have just been fully duped, way too emotional. I think Kaser and Janelle in that one video, she said, she's not dumb or she's not crazy or a bad player. She had an emotional breakdown in the game, and it was maybe too soon for her, and she's being easily manipulated. And apparently they've learned, and maybe Nicole learned about herself, is that she is not one to forgive. Or like as soon as she gets it in her mind, she's super stubborn and thinks she knows it all. And I think that's what we saw play out.
I just wish she had more time in between the two seasons, because I don't think it's a fair assessment of her as an actual BB player for this season. I don't know. I think if she would have had a year off, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think she's a good player now that I've seen her play this time around, just because I see the position that she allowed herself be in her first season. And yes, it was unfortunate, but now I'm realizing that she actually also puts herself in that situation a little bit. You know, Janelle and Kaser were not coming after her. They were not treating her like she was being treated another way. But she chooses to look for ways to be the victim in certain situations, and as opposed to being kind of empowered and running the show, she kind of takes that kind of like a back seat into what's going on. And so I think that's part of her natural, personality and how she fits in society in her vision. And so I think that she would have a similar outcome anytime she played.
I think she's very proud and not malleable at all. And she couldn't adapt to the powers that were and the way the game was flowing. And she didn't in her first season, and she was almost evicted. And then they changed it on Cliff at the last minute. And I think that's like, she gave into, again, I think I'm trying to forget the dynamics, but she got into this gossip thing about Nicole saying these stuff, like saying bad things about people and getting caught in lies with Bella. And I forget the whole dynamic of it, but she got things pinned on her, and she found the drama quite well. And I think she didn't handle herself well in either situation. And especially this most recent season.
Oh, brutal. I mean, I don't want anybody to have any mental breakdowns, but I just don't think that it's the right game for her, to be honest. Like,
it's just a hard pill to swallow, because she was the only glimmer of hope in 21.
1000%.
I can't even think about 21 without getting so. I like blacked it out from my memory. It's like,
I didn't even watch the finale. I skipped to the end so that I could see the smugness of like Julie being like, by the way,
America hates
his walking out was the best. He's like,
I'm like, hearing all that shit was very satisfying for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't even bear, like, his face just makes.
Well, like he's like kind of upset that he's not getting on the challenge and stuff like that because of, I'm like,
He takes one step.
No one from BB21 except for maybe Kemi and Jessica should.
What about Kat?
Be
Does anyone
allowed
like Kat?
any
No, this
other
is the whole
show.
thing. Annalise was supposed to be on it, but she's not anymore.
Bye, girl.
Your girl.
I like Kat. I like Catherine Dunn.
Bye, girl.
Bye, girl.
Who do you like?
Kat.
Yeah, Kat. We like Kat. She's the one who outed that whole group.
I don't know.
Actually, she said that she.
So Kat in the group says like, "That's not cool. Can we not or whatever?" And she's
Steve at that time.
What,
sorry.
Was she dating Reality Steve at that time? At that point in time, like back in July.
I don't know.
I could see him telling her that that's a good gossip, story. I don't know. The fact that she's dating Reality Steve, I just don't trust her at all. I feel like they can kind of.
Well, and also she's quite, in my opinion, an opportunist, and
Exactly.
it's her home branding, and she started her own podcast, and like, which is fine. Like anybody can do anything that they want, but I do feel a little bit that she wants the followers, she wants.
Yeah. That's why I thought maybe like in the group message, if she got it, she was next to Steve, and he was like, "Oh, you should like, go against them," and then like screenshot it and save it for later. Like, I don't know. I just think that there's ulterior motives. I don't hate Kat, but I don't love her.
Yeah, she's okay. I understand why people like her. She's kind of funny, but I kind of see a little bit of her being a little bit disingenuous with her intentions sometimes. So I'm kind of like
21.
Okay, so new costume is what's his name? Ian got a costume. If you watch the live feeds, he did it all the time, and people like would join in and like do this little acting out this Star Wars scene or whatever. I definitely think that Janelle got the easiest of costumes, or punishments. What do you guys think of Ian's little punishments? Michelle, since you're a thespian.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty brutal, but like entertaining at the same time. And yeah, that was like a tough punishment. You had to do it like all hours of the night, like all the time, and he needed a scene partner to read with him. So that was a particularly funny one.
I think he was the best person to get that punishment, though.
Yes. Could you imagine if Nicole F. We had to listen.
And no one's gonna say no to Ian when he's like, "Can you act out a scene with me?" I'd be like, "Yes, let's do it. Come on." Like, no one's gonna say no to him.
Nicole would be like crying, like,
I'm just so tired.
I just want to sleep. I want to.
Everyone's against me. The whole
Janelle
world.
made me get this punishment, and
danger because we're alliance, and so I don't even want to have this punishment.
Oh my.
Part of me wonders, did Janelle like put on her star costume? They're like, and you'll also have to sing "Twinkle Twinkle Little" 1,000,000 times a day, and she's just like, I'm not doing that. And they're like, all right, fine, just wear the costume. Like, I wonder if she's just like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, just did it.
Honestly, more power to her if that's the case.
She can do whatever she wants in my books. Like,
I think in the producer's books as well, she can do whatever she wants.
Well, except like, why didn't they freaking figure out something to keep her in the game? Like I
really thought that was.
They'd have a mob on their hands if they just divine intervention saved Janelle and Kaser on that. Like
no,
they would.
I don't think so.
What about that thing that you showed me about Zach? That they said that they wanted. Was it Zach? Is that his name?
Yeah, Zach and Kat talking about how they rig everything.
And so, like, rig it for like Frankie when he was with what's his name?
Caleb,
and they're playing that competition in the battle back, and Caleb didn't want to participate anymore, but then he realized that he could make him not win, and so
they forced him. Caleb
That's one of my favorite moments in an episode. Just watching Caleb sit down and Frankie busted out. Like, I thought that was so epic, and then hearing the other side of it, I was kind of like, oh.
You heard the part where Zach said that Caleb said he wouldn't play, and then they did it, and then Caleb's like, wait, I'll actually play. I'm just going to sabotage it. And they said, no, Caleb, you can't play.
Yeah,
they forced
when I
him
heard
to
that,
not
I was
play
like
anymore.
super bummed because
that's intervention though, so that Frankie could still have a chance. So
one thing on Twitter, at least everyone was saying that no one would be upset about that twist keeping Janelle because Facebook casuals and Twitter were both in agreement, about keeping Janelle around. And so I really at that point thought, okay, even the casuals are saying keep Janelle, then maybe like there would be an extra chance, but
Well, and also
She'll just come back in 15 years and play again.
no, she's never coming back again, and I don't blame her. I don't want her to come back again. Like I don't want
this box though that Rachel Riley used, like that ended up helping facilitate her win her season. People are also saying that that was kind of injected into the game to help Rachel Riley. So are you saying that that's just a coincidence, or has there been intervention in the past?
I don't know. I think regardless, like she would still have to win her way the whole way there. Like her and Kaiser, like rotating, it wouldn't be an easy route. She'd have to go through 12, 13 other people.
I think it had to do with the fact that Cody says that if they put in some sort of competition or twist that they stay this week, I'm going to quit the show. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
I hope that I mean I'm wondering what the reason was, because I don't see the benefit of them not doing it unless they had a really good reason to not do so. So I can see if people are gonna like riot and leave, then yeah, obviously not do it. But
and in general, though, this is a little bit separate of a conversation, is that what I've been noticing about this particular season is that the reasons why we love Janelle and Kaiser and that style of gameplay, it's all kind of like the old school mentality, and the new school is just about bullying and numbers, right? And so I'm realizing that I'm like, oh my God, they don't like the strategizing part of it. They don't like having to think about how to, get themselves out of these sticky situations. Like for the fact that dividing the house is such a bad thing, we need to have a mob mentality, and we got to pick up people that are not in our main group, but because we don't like what they did or didn't like what they said. And so I think that's why I've been finding that I haven't been enjoying Big Brother as much since probably season 15 or 16.
I was going to ask you, like, when's the last time we really saw that? And I thought maybe 16, but they had the detonators, which was huge. And then
10, I think.
10?
With some
That's what I mean. It's been such a long time. Sorry?
Say that again, Michelle?
I just said some great gameplay moments in 14.
Yeah.
And not a majority alliance, but like season 12 was the first with the horsemen, hated that. And there was a slew of them. And then in between, like sometimes there are ones that weren't as bad, but like
what was the brigade?
The brigade, right? So many terrible, terrible ones. But 14 was Ian's, I don't know if it was the rest of the number, the one that one I actually enjoyed.
I did too.
There were enough floaters on 14 that they all kind of banded together eventually and made it interesting.
Yeah.
The most interesting though is if they just left the coaches being coaches, and
that was an option. But someone Dan pushed the button.
Dan that pressed it.
Dan Janelle.
Did she?
Janelle didn't.
I think Dan was the only one.
I think Dan was the only one
person had to, but what's his name? Boogie is the only one who said no. And then Janelle went in and was like, yay! And then
I thought that
pressed it.
Dan was the only one that pressed it.
No, Brittany pressed it too. I remember, like, for sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, my favorite part about that season is Ian telling Mike Boogie to get to step in. Best.
So back on track with this season and this week.
I know, right?
I don't think that the new school players enjoy the game for the same reasons that Janelle and Kaiser are like lovers of the game. It's just a completely different form of strategy. It's just numbers. I get it. Numbers make sense. It is a numbers game, but I really obviously prefer people getting themselves out of sticky situations. I like seeing the battle going back and forth. I like people seeing like they really want it. They need to win that veto so they can stay. Like I want to see that. These people in this jumbo alliance, they're never going to be face any problems because of the fact that they are going to keep on winning. And the more people that they whittle down, they're going to be winning more, and they're going to be winning more, and they're going to be winning more, and it's going to be easier for them to win again.
I will say, mostly just to mention Tyler in this, but on season 20, there was that big group, but they were steamrolling a lot, but they had some precarious moments where they could have been in danger, but they convinced that household to not go after them. Like even on Haley's HOH, she could have just targeted that group, and didn't she end up getting rid of Scotty on hers? Like just because that's really good gameplay of how it all played out, and the hacker twist. I forget if that played into it, but
Yeah, hacker twist.
just like that was a good season, I think. And especially like there was the group, but there was still some precarious moments, and they had to use social game and strategy to keep the upper hand, and they did in the end do that.
Fine.
I think
And side alliances.
Well, I think if Fessy and Haley were even slightly better strategically, they kind of made them look dumb all season just because.
Well, also, and Caitlin Herman was like a ding dong. She started the spiral downward for like, you know, putting Swaggy C on the block and getting him out. Like those were numbers that are on her side. And so.
But that was Tyler's move. Like those are a lot of Tyler's moves.
Fine, but it also reinforced the bigger alliance, which is what I don't like. Is
He's
that
still part of the Popular Kids Alliance. He was just like actually still a good player, but he's still part of that whole thing. Like I still
like now the Popular Kids Alliance, like the best thing for them to do was to be bad mouthing and bashing Janelle, making Janelle the target, making them the enemy, making everything that they do a bad, and continue that narrative. We have to get them out. Like we want this house to be nice. They're just like such horrible people. Like yes, it's a strategy, but it also reinforced the larger alliance to keep it strong. And so it's unfortunate for me to see that people are just so easily manipulated and can't see their best interests like more clearly.
I think the main reason it's bothering us now is because we expect more from All-Stars, and we've watched all these seasons where it's happened and we're expecting more. And look, Tyler's doing it again. He's wrangling in, making side alliances, making everyone feel comfortable with him. And he's redoing his own game, and no one is wise to it yet. And we're just shocked as viewers how they aren't responding differently to it. But they're doing a really good job of keeping all the floaters from amalgamating. And
well, one thing
good gameplay. It sucks because we want to see those things, but it's also you need HOHs to do anything about it, and they just aren't getting them.
I forgot what I was about to say. When Bailey was talking to Janelle, and Janelle was like, well, why do we have to do what the head of household wants? She's like, in my day, we did the opposite of what the head of household wants. We didn't want them to have the upper hand. Like, why are you following the head of household? And Bailey was like, I don't know, that's just the rule.
Well, and that's what makes me like, obviously Janelle's a huge target. If I knew I was in, like, say I was in, I don't know, even David or whoever, like a floater's position, I was a super fan and I had seen her seasons, I would cling to her knowing that she'd 1, be a shield, and 2, she'd be loyal. 3, we'd have Kaser. So that made me wonder, like, have they seen her season? And I started to think, like, maybe they have, because, you know, they think she's such a big target, which is fine. But then they make fun of her for campaigning. Yeah. And, like, making deals that don't get made today. You know, like, I'll keep you safe for, like, 2 or 3 weeks, and then, you know, we'll go on our separate ways. Like, that kind of thing. Everyone's making fun of her for it. But I'm like, but that's what used to happen. So it makes me wonder who's actually...
super fans. Exactly.
Yeah, I guess. Or just who's used to this style of gameplay.
I think if they would have picked some different All-Stars and like got rid of some of the like B-class All-Stars that we've seen on this season, and they added in like Derek and Dan and even like James from season 6, or just like super sharp strategic players, I think that Kaser and Janelle would have had a better chance because they'd be blending in a little bit more as other targets. There'd be less fear about them because everyone is massive. But like Cody, Tyler, Danny, like those are huge people that are alongside with them. So I just think
COVID wasn't a thing. If COVID wasn't a thing, I think they would have had an actual All-Star season.
But even if they did get all those players, like every single alpha or top dog player we can think of across 21 seasons, I still think Janelle and Kaser would be at the top of the hit list for a lot of them too. So I think it was just like,
I don't know,
strategize more though, and like they might be able to hide behind people, and there would have to be a decider. Are you going to be Team Janelle or Team Dan or whatever it is?
Yeah.
But like people would, if people were more of the mind of strategy and not wanting to be part of a blob alliance, like then they would be able to see that, hey, I'm on the bottom here. I need to make a move. I need to make a move here. I need to gain some power. I need to gain some control here. We can't let this get bigger. It's going to get out of control if we don't stop it now. And like people would be a little more reasonable and be able to see it more, especially like, you know, Nicole Anthony never watched back her own season. That's problematic if you're going to go on to another season. Like you were on a
Watch it back?
hadn't watched it back.
But that shows I don't think she was mentally like even kind of ready.
Guys,
I think
portrayed queen. Like,
Huh?
you need to see how she's being portrayed. You need to like it's research. It's part of your job if you want to do well. Like,
it's what people will think of her. And
Well, I think she just got all that positive feedback when she left at final 3, and I think she got the positive feedback and was like didn't want to watch everything that she did wrong.
reliving the bullying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even using in the house like, oh, you shouldn't mess with me, like I'm America's favorite or whatever, and I was just kind of like, so's Janelle, so's
You went to AFP to WTF.
I think a lot of Janelle's campaigning was falling just on deaf ears, and they were just kind of like doing that the whole time. So it's like, she didn't have super quality players, but at some point, you have to just say who you're voting to evict and stick to your guns, no matter what the campaign, or else you look untrustworthy to the people who aren't on the block and who are playing next week and who are definitely safe. So I think it was a strategy to also just be like, sorry, I can't tell you what you want to hear, Janelle. Like, get the votes, sure, come to me, let's do a group meeting about all the 6 votes you have. But they all kind of handled it well. Like, Danny was using her campaigning just to get information about who was a maybe vote for Janelle in the event that she got the votes. Memphis was like, yeah, sure, get the votes in your mind, or you have me. I think Kevin did the same, or it was.
They all did the same thing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the smart thing to do in that case, because you want both of them gone and you want the next one gone after. So it doesn't matter. You don't need to promise them the world or stick your neck out. They saw what happened to them when they did it for Nicole Anthony. Like,
well, she pulled all those people into a room, right? Not the day of the eviction, was like, okay, who's voting for me? Like all the people that said, if you have the votes, if you have the votes, if you have the votes. And I don't think anyone even answered her then. I think.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, the feeds with Danny and Nicole last night were.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah, so, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So like,
no, yeah, but just she tried, and I think that just everyone making fun of her for it is just like, it shows how much she loves the game. Like, she has a family, she has a successful career. I highly doubt it's about the money. I think it's just about
playing the game.
You know, the fact that she loves the game so much and like
her legacy
to come back. Like Allstars, of course, 2-time All-Star. Come on.
Yeah, that's huge. So Nicole gets evicted, and they go into the HOH competition.
Oh man, that was such a First off, like Julie, you could tell that Julie was very upset with Nicole, which usually she's pretty. She smacked Marcellus in the back of the head.
Yeah, she hit someone.
She does actually have opinions. We'll say, like with Rachel season 2020. She had an opinion, but she really had. She wanted to give it to Nicole. I was surprised how far that she allowed Nicole to feel bad about like what she did. That was a little extra, but I kind of enjoyed it though. Is that bad?
No, she needed that. She needed that middle ground before she walked out the actual doors.
Yeah, Julie was pretty mean and definitely made Nicole understand that she was no longer America's favorite anymore. So the head of household competition, because basically they got to practice this. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how long or how much they got to practice, but they did have this set up in the backyard, we'll say, beforehand. And I'm so frustrated with it, and you guys are probably going to agree, is that I don't know if it's random or not, but Kaser and Janelle were at the end. And I was like, perfect. Yes, it's timed, but you can also have precision at the end.
Yes.
Right? You could
go a little slower. Who cares about time? Just get the cups to the right spots.
And that's what I was like, oh my God, like they can use precision at the end. And everybody went. And I think Ian was at like 11 for a while. And then Tyler comes in, Mr. Bowler, and really great at all these freaking stupid carnival games. And he goes and he slides the beer mug down the lane and hits 12 points in like 15 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, I think he got 15.
I thought Ian did really well. I'm like, oh, that's going to be hard to beat Ian. He did it so fast and he did well. And you could just tell he was like swaying confidently. I don't think he thought people were going to beat him as well.
Have you guys played shuffleboard ever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think I would have been okay at it.
Yeah, no, that's what it reminded me of, because I bartended at a place that had huge shuffleboard tournaments, and I was like, oh my God, this would be my HOH.
You would train your muscle memory of like earlier in the day practicing, like, okay, when I do it this hard, it's always harder than you think. Just like in the guessing sample sizes, it's always more than you think. That's just like the rule of thumb for it. So push a little harder. Like you saw Cody go first and he got like 1-1-2, I think, like just garbage. It's like, how do you not get those little tricks under your belt? And it seemed like a lot of people were doing it for the first time. But
well, and then Janelle got
11.
She literally was so close. She would
Oh
have.
no, she got 1 point behind Tyler. Whatever he got, she got 1 point.
And she got it in less time too.
So I think personally was focusing on time and hitting the buzzer instead of precision of the last like push. Because
I wouldn't have cared about time.
No, exactly. Like you guys are the final two. Like Janelle, like especially when she had the first two pretty good numbers, I'd be like, okay, I just need to hit a 4, and if I hit a 4, I'll beat him or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, I was so hopeful, and then I saw that it was 11. I was like, fuck. I'm like, now I'm like, Kaser, take all the time you need. It doesn't matter now. Speed doesn't matter now.
Well, you still had only 30 seconds. You had to complete it in 30.
I think Kaser should have gone. If Kaser went first, I think Janelle would have won. Because Janelle would have been like, oh shit, like this is
all on me.
Like, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to, I think she would have had a little bit more pressure on her. Because I think she probably was like, okay, there's still Kaser behind me. Like I'll do my best. But I think if Kaser would have gone first, Janelle would have won.
How shit would she have felt if she got 12 and she was 1 second behind because she took her time? Like that would have also been torture.
I know, but she had to make sure that she beat him.
Yeah.
Like, just get the higher number. You know
what I mean? Because the only person after you was Kaser.
But yeah.
Would have
from that moment on, I've just been crying myself to sleep. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because it's just like one friggin' point, like, and so one friggin' point on a
game that's not like a guy like would easily win. It could have gone either way.
None of them have been.
I know, and that's the frustrating part I brought up earlier about them saying, guys keep winning. I'm like, well, because you're cutting all the girls, of course.
Well,
guys.
I mean, okay, the first head of household, I think that it was heavily geared towards a man winning.
Really?
Because of how they set them up.
The weight of it, maybe? The weight of the balance, you think?
Calls were that the women had to get theirs into. So the guys were all super close to them on the maze, and the women's, both of them were the two furthest spots in the ball.
Kitchen and
no bumper on the outside. So Janelle many times got it to very close to the end, but there's no wall, so it just fell off the other side. And so they had it both the times. The women's heats had a more difficult obstacle for them to be able to.
Yeah.
And then only 2 people managed to be able to advance in that time slot out of the women. So right there is a numbers advantage. And then also with that shaky star that, that they didn't reset when Cody was going, that he was able to easily see the path. So he was going to be a man, like whoever was going to go after Memphis was going to be winning no matter what. It just so happened to be a guy.
It was pretty upsetting that they didn't just keep the same room for the same obstacle course on that little balance thing. Just make it the same. No one has seen, there's no new information. We didn't need to see it.
I think they were trying to show different parts of the house, or I don't know what they were trying to do, but from a fair.
Well, make it all different. Oh yeah, you're right.
It just didn't make sense, and that we talked about that. I noticed it right away. I was like pissed about it.
Unfair.
And then once I realized there was only 2 girls going, I was like, okay, this season's off to a great start.
So annoying.
So they go into so Tyler wins. When Tyler first wins, I'm actually kind of hopeful. I'm like, okay, if it's not Janelle or Kaser, they're on the block. But I'm like, Tyler winning. Okay, he's in that alliance, but he's also very smart and reasonable, and he's very social and good. And I was just like, maybe something good can happen this week. What do we think about that?
I really felt as though, I knew that there was no way that he was going to go against the house.
He had too many final 2s.
Especially when he's in such a good position right now with so many different people, and everyone just wants these big targets. It made the most sense for him to put them up. I did have a little bit of, I was like, maybe because he does see sense later in the week. Once it's too late, he does, there's a part of the feeds where he's talking to himself being like, I'm an idiot and I'm playing an awful game. I'm doing the same thing I did last time. And keeping Janelle would be amazing for me. because I'm such a big target now, especially after David blows up the whole thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So like he does kind of realize it, but not enough to actually do anything. And that's what's so frustrating. I think he's still in a great position, but it's just like, dude, like you could have just like made all the fans love you so much, even more if you would just like flipped things around, worked with them, pulled it, like made something crazy, pulled in Davon and whatever, and was like, listen, we're gonna have Janelle as this big target and like la la la, get out these other guys. Like it would have been so amazing just to see that journey.
I know, and like
I know it would have been a few weeks later, he may have done that, but given the week, given where he's at,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer. He was not going to blow up his game to questionably move forward in the future.
The thing too is that I know everybody wants to win, so I get that the winning, the money is very important to people, but like I would be like, oh my God, I'm on an all-star season. Like, let's fucking give them a game. Like, let's make decisions maybe that we wouldn't have made before. We all got paid 40 grand to be here. Let's give them a show. Let's battle it out. Like that's what kind of what Janelle was pitching at one point as well, being like, you know, like, I'm gonna go after the floaters now. Let's get rid of the floaters, and there's like the final 8 will just be all of us just battling it out. Like this.
Who wants a Kevin Christmas final 2?
No one. But do you think
I know.
Because they have so many people that were like second or third or fourth even, that everyone's playing super careful because they want to make sure that that's in my opinion at least. I think everyone's just super careful because they already have felt the sting of either being second, third, or fourth, and don't want to make any waves so that way they can like float to the end, but not float to the end, but
because I'm a lover of the game more so than I think that many of them are, that I would want to be playing a fun game for the audience.
Me too, but just the cast that they have, I don't think
bad actually.
I think they want to play a fun game, they want that, but they also just want to be alive, like stay in the game as long as possible. And you can't deny Tyler's reasoning of Janelle, in case we're throwing his name around specifically, he'd be a fool not to target it. I think if he didn't get that information or Janelle hadn't done that he could have actually kind of worked the way that we wanted him to this week. But he just was like, you said my alliance, you named my alliance, and specifically me, I have to strike before you do because I can't trust that you wouldn't have done it. And he even said, he's like, something tells me if one of you would have won, it would be my name, my face showing up on the wall right now.
I think it would have been Cody.
I think it would have been Cody and Nicole.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think it was just smart for his alliance. He has to look loyal. You saw what happened to Memphis. Everyone doesn't trust him. He's on the outs of his alliance because of his HOH reign.
Memphis is
and after all said and done, Tyler is still not someone that I am, even though he nominated them both, I don't blame him necessarily as much as I blame other people for
I blame Danielle for pushing it so much.
Oh, Danny?
Yeah.
She's scared.
No, she's a mean girl.
Last week's veto, is it?
Yeah.
I don't even know where the veto was last week, Nick.
So he nominates Janelle and Kaser. I think the speech was good. Then we go into the veto pick. I didn't like Janelle going to Bailey saying like, should I play for you? And Bailey kind of being like, yeah, I'll play. Sure. You want me to play? Like she's like Janelle's bestie in the house. And then when it comes to strategy talk, she's just like I don't know. I didn't like that scene of Janelle trying to say, should I pick you for house guest choice? And Bailey giving her nothing. But Bailey's saying a million times she wants to keep her.
The person has been treating Janelle in that exact same way. And even Bailey would, you know, if Janelle had a strategy talk or like ask her about numbers or anything like that for Nicole Anthony or for herself, she'd just go right back and run over to Danny and tell her everything that she said and that she's pissing her off and like, Janelle wants me to be a have-not with her this week. And so she's like, I don't want to be a have-not with her. Like, just stop lumping me into your like a grouping, your alliance. And she wasn't really saying it as strategy. And it actually kind of bothered me quite a bit that she was so disloyal to Janelle when Janelle is a very loyal player. And I think she expected everybody that she was giving her loyalty to would be giving it back to her. And I think that was the major flaw in her game, is thinking that people would be recognizing her traits and treating her as such. And not one person was valuing what Janelle values, and
I think, yeah, I only respected Bae enough in the situation because she was the only one that seemed to give her the time of day in regards to just even talking to her about game. And even though she wasn't like necessarily speaking the truth or whatever the case is, at least she was, I think Bailey is a super fan and knows how Janelle is, but didn't want to go down with the sinking ship.
Yeah.
Which I think she saw was going to be inevitable anyway.
But why didn't she just give Janelle a bit more information? Be like, listen, everybody's talking badly. And she started to a little bit in the last campaign.
Look at how everyone is. At the second they hear someone saying something to someone else, they're like, I don't know, David, you know, like everyone is like anti-David now. The second like one piece of information spills, it's like they're the next enemy because who the hell are they going to go after now?
Plus, she could be worried that if Janelle calls these other people out, they'll be like, well, Bailey said X, Y, Z.
Exactly.
And it'll just create this like cycle.
Well, I think the thing I didn't like most about that whole chat between Bailey and Janelle is why doesn't Bailey just be honest with her? Like Janelle is being fully honest with her. Just say, I really want you to stay, but I don't think picking me for Veto is the best because I don't want to be put in the position to use it on you. Just pick someone that you can beat, and if you get Outskirts choice, so that you can just win it yourself. Like,
which I think she
straight
did
up with her.
up on because she said she's like maybe I'll pick Nicole Franzel as somebody.
Yeah, but Bailey didn't.
I think she maybe picked up on it, but you're right. Bailey didn't say it directly.
Bailey half-heartedly was like, sure, I'll play. Like, she didn't say yes, pick me, or no, don't pick me.
I would not be aligning with any of those mofos at all, and I would be
honored to go down fighting for Janelle in case.
Like
I just want to be known like as like a Janelle and Kaser, like loyal alliance member, like doing my best to like fuck shit up and just tear the house down. I wouldn't even want to win. If I knew I was playing All-Star season with them, I would want that one of them to win, and I'd go down just like making them get there. That's how crazy of a fan I am of that.
Or get there with them and then beat them.
Possibly, but I would never cut one of them at final three. I don't think. Like
I would, but I definitely bring them past jury for sure.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just such a stand for both of them that I would be blinded, but I would stand by it after I left.
I would cut them at 3, obviously. Like I'd take whoever I thought I could beat at the end, or the person that like I wanted to sit beside with most, for sure. But it wouldn't be my game strategy to get one of them out, as to have that be the head on the spit that I wanted to be as my legacy. Like that wouldn't be how I would want to have my legacy. Just be like, I took out Janelle. Like if you take out Janelle, it'd be best to be at the final 3, be like, you're my hero, you're my legend. Like
you gotta go.
Like they've done 2 times to her.
But I'm cutting Janelle, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like that. And if goosebumps just thinking about that being an epic moment, being like, you know.
And if Janelle was talking actual game to me and, you know, trying to like make things happen, I would know 100%. I would never question that she's on my team. I would never be like, if I heard something else from someone like, oh, Janelle said this about you, I'd be like, okay. Just like how Kaser is, how he said anyone can tell him Janelle said something about him and he would never believe it because that's just who she is as a person. And I'm like, how did you guys not capitalize on that?
If I was in that, Janelle and Tyler would be my 2 go-tos because Janelle is just so level-headed and logical, and Tyler just keeps his cool. Like, even when he was so angry at David, like getting ahead of ourselves, he just like, oh man, why'd you do that? Like, I just trust and get along with emotionally, like,
you know what,
kill people.
Tyler is an Aquarius, so you know he's gonna have a similar temperament as me. But they usually don't have necessarily. They have a lot of friends, or they're able to communicate with a lot of people, and so I'm noticing that in his style. It's kind of how my style is as well, to be honest. I just obviously found him annoying last season, but like I'm starting to appreciate his game more this season around because I'm like, oh, actually it is kind of like mine a little bit. And so Janelle is a Capricorn. So she's like Dahlia, which is interesting. So Dahlia is a girl that we both have, well, Nick hasn't, but he knows who she is. We played.
Yeah, I hung out with her.
So it's that tenacity, that's that fight. It's like the never quit, like to keep going. They don't usually get emotional. So I don't know why she cried on your final two, Nicole or Michelle, but she did. But you know, it has that same kind of passion and want to keep going, and the loyalty is still there. And so they make sense why you would want to play with them, because they have qualities of players that we've both played with that have some good parts in them.
The Janelle Tyler alliance would have just been
wanted
so
to work
pleasing.
with him.
They both wanted to work with each other, it seems like.
It would have been epic.
Agreed.
What
But
happened?
it's unstoppable.
He just got involved. What happened was Cody won that first HOH, and Tyler just goes where he like needed to protect himself, and then this thing just kind of happened around him, and he's like, all right, like it just happened.
He gave the mob what they want.
Yeah.
But he also, like I said, yeah, we can just write it off as he gave the mob what they want. But he said it. He's like, you said my name. I think if he would have just said like, this alliance of 6 is a huge problem. But because they were trying to spin things specifically against Tyler in ways I never really heard of, but it happened. That's why Tyler's like, I'm an idiot to not do this. Like, I still really want you in this game. Veto is here around the corner. Let's see.
Gunning for him. They were saying Nicole F. They thought Nicole F was like the head of the snake.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah.
the guys even laughed about it.
But don't even get me started about them two together. But
Told this all to Memphis, and Memphis told.
yeah, because they didn't know it was a 6-person alliance until she got evicted. She just thought it was the 4 of them, and Tyler didn't even. If Tyler would have even trusted her enough to be like, "Yo, there's 2 other people in this also," kind of thing, and like talk to her about it, I think, because none of them, I don't think any of them were like super catching on to the fact that Memphis was keeping them safe. I think it was just like who he nominated was like the safest bet he could have done. But I don't know.
Well, there's lots I want to talk to you about for this veto as well. They get to the veto comp. Bailey does end up getting picked, but not from house guest choice. And then there was Memphis got picked, as well as Cody. So that's odds stacked against them, which is crazy. But Bailey's there, sure. Then they go into the matchup cupcake stacking game. And when Janelle goes, it's against Memphis. And he had like a completed cupcake that he disassembled, and they all noticed. And I was like, holy crap. But the ironic thing was in the diary rooms, he's like, yeah, so I really want to win. I'm trying hard. And I think that was just a mistake, but it looked so bad on him. So what do you think about that?
I definitely think that it was a mistake, but it was very clear to everybody on the outside that he just had to move one cupcake over and he would have won. I think that what it seems like this cast has been doing is they've been finding little things to paint people with, like to be the next target. And so regardless of whether or not he did it intentionally or not, I think that they are choosing, let's find a narrative for Memphis. And let's find a good reason to start targeting Memphis at a certain point. Mm-hmm. And so I think he's logging up different information to use it as a pitch point for depending on who's the head of household. Be like, yeah, like he's so disingenuous. And like with all these rogue votes that are being thrown around, like it's just putting a little bit of question into people's games that I think is going to be allowing them to target them later, personally.
That's mostly led by Danny, I feel. But I also think he brought it on himself with his kind of shady HOH reign the week before, making everyone mistrust him or at least think he's not the most easy guy to work with. So I think he kind of planted those seeds for them to jump on that and noticing it and not give him the benefit of the doubt. But I also think that, they will just paint any type of scenario to just make sure that there's always the next villain in line. And I think that it's Memphis. He had a hand in it, kind of getting the ball rolling, but that was a really, when I saw that, I was like, crap, because Memphis is on my team. I don't particularly like him or like his game, but I was like, I just want my team to survive. And I was just like, oh, he's going to have to answer for that soon. But did you guys watch the live feeds? Did anyone pull him aside and be like, did you throw that? Okay, we just want to know. Like, did they have a group talk or are they just clocking it and moving on?
I don't think so. Not from what I saw, but also look at how he is when you pull him aside to talk about something, like you said.
Yeah.
he's not very easy to talk to. He's not very approachable. So I don't think
wild card.
I think they're just holding in their back pocket, like you said, until they need to.
I mean, I don't think that anybody's going to bring it up with him because they don't know what he will do with his head of household. If he were to ever win again, you know, you don't want him to be annoyed that you don't trust him or whatever. So I think that they're just like remembering and storing it for later when they want to use it for ammo.
I think Tyler already mistrusting Memphis last week when he was kind of like, yeah, I'm gunning for remember on Memphis's HOH, they were both saying they were gunning it, and Tyler's like, I'm gunning for this veto because he wants to win it so that they could maybe backdoor Franzel because they know Memphis won't use it, even though it's what the Alliance wants. Like Tyler was going hard. He already mistrusts him. So I think Tyler putting up Janelle and Kaser side victory on this was he's chopping any type of threesome that they might be having that people are speculating about as well. So I think it was a multi-layered attack on everyone in the house to put up Kaser and Janelle, pleasing some, weakening others, and targeting, obviously, those two. So
that's really interesting to see.
I think it was a good HOH reign overall. One quick thing, though, back to this thing, is that Memphis looks like he threw the thing, but then the round before, Kaser literally spends his minutes or whatever stacking the cupcakes just on the wrong bases. So clearly, dumb mistakes can happen in this timed, kind of tricky mental comp. So I think if they looked at like, okay, a nominee who's clearly not throwing it, messed up even worse than Memphis did, can we not believe for a second that maybe, or can we believe that maybe Memphis just goofed it, you know?
But what else are they going to do when they have that many people aligned with each other? They're going to start to weaken, you know, trust and how you view some of the other people in your alliance. That way they're not the next ones. So.
Yeah. Well, I think Danny and even at Enzo, I think they leaned over to each other. I think Danny is definitely making sure everyone sees everyone's moves and how everyone is a threat, but she never says, and look at how I'm a threat. She's always spreading the rumors for people. And they even showed the segment on the episode with all the little like slice noises of Danny like marking her hit list, kind of like Danielle from season 3. So I think they're really giving that mastermind narrative to her.
Together,
and that's not even half of it.
This narrative is not even correct. Yes, she's been doing all these things, but like she's not as slick and as smooth as the episode is making her seem. Like,
No.
And it's actually very annoying that it's actually putting Danny in like, she looks like she's being this excellent game player and that she's the one that's, you know, all the strings or whatever, but like she's being actually rather messy and quite nasty. Like,
well, this is a good narrative or a good time to enlighten me on that, because I'm kind of like falling for what the episodes are showing me. So what are some examples as to why this isn't the case?
Should we wait until we get to the...
let's just talk about it, Karis.
All right, let's go.
Well, what are you going to say specifically?
About how I think it was 2 nights ago, Cody, Enzo, it was Cody and Enzo for a while, but then Tyler ended up coming in and they essentially all realized, well, Cody and Enzo first realized that Nicole Franzel knew about the Slick Six, even though she wasn't in it, and none of the guys had told her, so they knew that Danny was the source for that. And
why
then
couldn't it be Davon or Bailey though?
Huh?
Why couldn't it
well,
have
because
been
Davon and Bailey, like, also, like, in feeds, like, they're not very fond of Franzel. Like, they don't want to work with her. They're not.
Okay.
Yeah, and Davon and Franzel already have history, so I don't think that
Danny is always talking to Nicole, so.
Yeah, they're, like, talking shit about Bailey and Day being at the hip, but those two are always together. And then, they were trying to figure out why they were mad at David. Oh, yeah, so should we talk about Tyler and all of them getting mad at David for telling Davon?
Okay,
that,
so it started before all
yeah,
that.
so it's got to go back to that, I guess.
The fact that, so they didn't show this on the episode at all. And so Danny, Bailey, okay, actually, no, there's another thing that happened beforehand. So,
yeah.
Nicole Franzel and Danny started poking fun at David, saying that David has a crush on Davon. And so they're like, oh, like googly eyes, whatever, making fun, like teasing him, whatever. And in my head, I'm like, oh shit, they're starting to make that look like Danielle and him are going to be in a showmance, and they're going to use it as something that they can have a reason to break them up and target them. That's what I'm thinking in my head. So then they started bringing that up to, I think they brought it up to Bailey, and Bailey got pissed off, being like, hey, like, you know, like you're making her into a target. Like, that's not what's going on. Like, just like stop like making that a thing. And so they're kind of being like, oh no, we weren't trying to do that. We weren't going to do that. Then I think Devon went to start like apologizing for Bailey about what was happening there. And Nicole Franzel now is upset that Bailey's upset that she was doing something like disingenuous or whatever.
She said that it took you a couple tries and a couple guys.
Well, then next what happened? So then Bailey's part of this new conversation. This is after all this David stuff has happened. Okay. And Danny originally says something to the effect of like, oh, whatever, like you, like Showmance was the one that helped you get to the end. And I believe it was Franzel that originally said a couple of tries, a couple of guys, and then Bailey reset it.
Yeah.
And you know, it wasn't a big deal, but then Franzel was like, just starts bawling and crying about the whole thing. But it was really Danny was the one that kind of like was like saying to Franzel, like, oh, like, you know, she's so horrible. I can't believe she said that to you, like, and kind of inflating that narrative. And so then after that, obviously Bailey didn't know that why Nicole Franzel was being that mad. And then now starting like the whole, you know, Bailey's a really terrible person narrative has started, and like that she's a hothead and all this stuff. And so that's kind of where it all started, like last, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday. It was quite a while ago. And so then after that, wait, what happened after that?
David was trying to make good with.
Right. So yeah. So David, wanted to make good with Devon and all that stuff because, like, you know, wait, what happened though?
In the episode, they tell Devon about this.
Tyler and Cody had told him that, I think it was actually it was both of them had just told him something. I don't know where they had heard it from. Oh, from Danny, that Devon was trying to flip the vote for David to go. And so then David was like, wow, I thought Devon was in my corner, and she actually was. But Danny started this whole rumor. And then, so Cody and Tyler were like, yo, don't say anything, but like, this is what we heard kind of thing. And then Bailey and Devon, because of that situation Chantele brought up, they were kind of all talking together, I think trying to smooth things over, like move forward, work together kind of thing. And then David just spilled that Tyler and Cody divulged to him that Devon was trying to flip the vote, which she was not at all. Like, she contemplated it at one point, I forget why, but she was never, I don't think she would ever vote against him. Like, even if she knew Nicole was going home, I think she still would have voted out Nicole, just to stay true to herself and like what she said before she got there. But so then when that happened, that's when David went upstairs and told Tyler that they cornered him, they got it out of him kind of thing. And then so Tyler, Cody, and Enzo were super mad that whole situation even happened. But then they were like, wait, where did this rumor start? And then they realized it started from Danny. Right. So when Cody and Enzo realized it started from Danny, they were kind of like,
Tyler's like is kind of gunning for Danny a little bit right now. Really? And all that, her whole alliance right now is like kind of they're second guessing her, like what she's spreading and her loyalty and everything that she's getting kind of messy and kind of going on with her messiness. She asked Cody whether or not how'd she phrase it? She's like, oh, do you want to be sneaky, or I can't remember exactly what she said, like, or do you play this game like boring, or do you want to be like have fun or something like that? And he's like, I don't know, what do you mean? And she's like, well, like maybe we should throw like a couple of votes onto Janelle, or onto Kaser to save Janelle, and then we can basically pin it on whomever we want, whatever. So that's another thing that she did, but now she's denying that she did the hinky vote. And
Bailey's going down for it.
Enzo.
Say again? Yeah, I mean, they both are, I get it, but like the point of throwing hinky votes is that nobody knew that knows that you threw it, and you're gonna have to deny. But
yeah, just do it and then use the chaos. Like, don't let someone know that you were thinking of it, because then you're obviously the.
Well, Cody keeps calling her on it too. He keeps saying like, I'm pretty sure it was Christmas and Danny. Like he keeps saying hypotheticals, and he always keeps Danny's name in there because I don't think the boys trust her. And I don't know, like everyone yesterday saw how Enzo was talking about her and was like quoting him on the tweets, and then last night he was like, oh yeah, like let's go after Kaser and whatever, because he wanted Danny's head on a stick after the three boys talked about her and like how she's the one that's involved in every line, she's the one spreading all the rumors, she's the one getting all the information, bringing it back. So they're kind of realizing her gameplay and realizing what they need to do, but they're not going to act on it, and I don't know why.
Finally, one of Chantel's teammates in danger, potentially.
I mean, I don't think that she's actually going to be in danger, but they're not going to be sad to lose her.
Okay. And I mean, that's what just caused, because she's gone in the diary rooms talking about how she's not sad to lose anyone in her alliance, and she's already plotting their demise. And like, so I think she'll just like kind of bow and be like, oh, good, you got me first. Like, I hope she'll be a good sport about it, because she's clearly, it sounds like she's like a walking burn book from like Mean Girls or something. Like she's just trying to create shit so that there's drama between everyone, and she can just sit back and laugh and watch them go at each other.
Even Nicole said, she was like, you're running the game. I don't do anything. I just like sit in bed all day, but you're the one running the game. And I'm like, here goes Nicole again, staying in bed all day until the fucking final two.
Using that to her advantage and being like she'll go against Danny in a fucking heartbeat. We know.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
I don't want to see her anymore. I know you love her, Nick.
I don't. I like, you keep making that narrative in your head. I don't want her. I said I think she's a good player who's done well both her seasons, and I want her on my team because I think she just has a knack for slipping through the cracks and performing when she needs to. I don't necessarily like her. I don't think I'd be her friend or anything.
No, I feel the exact same way.
I'm trying to pick who will go far in this game.
Would you go to her wedding? Would you or would you not go to her wedding? And was that a big dig that she put on her exit? Or
that was so lame.
I hate weddings, so I wouldn't care. I'd be like, oh, good, thanks. I don't have to go.
Janelle, you think this gold face and this outfit is going to give her about your wedding? Like, better than you're going to look on your wedding right there. Like, she literally looks like $1 million. She's amazing.
I wish she would still go just to fuck her wedding up, because she is nonstop talking about her wedding.
Just to wear a white gown.
Yeah. Oh my, with her Louboutin. And just, or she could even wear a star costume. I don't give a fuck. And she would
You're
still
mean
steal
girls.
the show.
No, on Robin's podcast last night, I said, I'm like, I mean, if she went to the wedding, she better wear white. So bad. I mean, she would never go because she's just too
above it. Way above it.
She couldn't be bothered, I feel like. I don't think that Janelle gets phased, and she just wouldn't be bothered by this, and she wouldn't want to subscribe to this drama, etc.
But that's why she wasn't kissing her ass when she was in the house, just because she was invited to her wedding. She was like, well, I know what kind of player she is.
Michigan in December. Who wants to go to that?
Yeah.
Like
during COVID too. Like, good fucking luck.
Wait, there's a COVID too?
Probably. Fuck, I don't know.
Okay, back on track where we left off, because I went on that tangent about Danny and like where if she is running or not.
Yeah.
The veto plays out. We get Janelle knocked out by Memphis, even though he was throwing it. Like, I was kind of shocking to me. And Kaser stacking it wrong, so they both just like flubbed it. And then it comes down to the all three HOHs in the past 3 weeks in the top 3 spots, and Tyler versus Cody. And Tyler is trying his hardest. I was secretly hoping for Tyler to win, because this is what I want to talk to you guys, because you know a lot about the live feeds. If Tyler had won, do you think the week would have played out exactly the way it did? Because I don't know.
Tyler wanted, from what I was reading and saw, wanted Janelle to be backdoored. And so, yeah, at that point in time, like because she had called out the alliance name and everything.
Are you talking about Devon? You said Janelle.
No, I'm talking about Janelle.
But Janelle was already on the block. How could she be backdoored?
Oh, sorry. I was going back a week. Oh my God.
I mean, okay, Tyler's HOH.
Well,
Janelle kissed her on the block.
I know Cody offered to, he was like, unless you want me to use it. And then
to go to Memphis?
well, just in general, but I mean, maybe Janelle would have come off the block, which would have changed things. But I don't think he was there.
No, I don't think he would. Yeah.
They would have
I
ever.
kind of saw through that as just a way to be like, look, I'm open-minded. Let's work what's best for the group. Whereas Cody wanted to put them up, and he's always wanted them gone. I don't think he would have just found a way to not use it and spin the words the way that would work well for him.
No,
it's really unfortunate, but everybody is actually, they are scared of Nicole Franzel having a crying fit. And so a lot of it, like even within, after the veto happens, it's not used. Like, you know, Janelle is campaigning to everybody multiple times a day. People are laughing at her about the fact she's campaigning. But there was one point, or a few points, where like Enzo was like, you know what, we should keep her. And Tyler was like, maybe I should keep her. Like, David's such a liability. Like, we need him out of here. Like, maybe I should keep Janelle because she's like she's ahead of me. And like, she is loyal. Like, maybe we could do, you know, they were thinking about these things. So it would have been a possibility maybe if Franzel wasn't part of the thing, but Enzo would always shoot it down, or someone would shoot it down being like, oh, but I don't want Nicole Franzel to be
well, and I think too what played a big part of it, and I even had to ask Chantele, like how they had this on the live feeds, all of them were convinced it was going to be a wall comp, like the endurance comp, and that played a huge role in it, because if they had thought about keeping Janelle has a way better chance of winning an endurance comp than Kaser. And so I think at the end of the day, like towards the end of the week, that kind of sealed her fate, because they heard them building something outside. Flash on tells like, why does everyone think? Because I didn't hear that part of the feeds that they had heard that, but I just, when I was watching the feeds, everyone's talking about the wall comp. And and Chantele said they heard it building outside. And so I think that also.
But wouldn't you want, if you're actually thinking of flipping the script, keeping Janelle, you would want it to be a wall comp. So thinking it's a wall comp and you're already considering, that would be more reason to get the vote so she wins and keeps all her voters safe.
But they would have to cross their whole alliance, because she had offered them safety, but she didn't offer Danny safety. She didn't offer Franzel.
Yeah,
safety.
well.
So it was like, that would have been a line drawn.
The fact that they were all really scared that there was going to be a battle back or a buyback of some sort. So they didn't want an opportunity for Kaser and Janelle to be within the house together again.
Right.
And so they wanted to make sure that they got them both out as well, so that they didn't have the two of them maybe both survive. And so
only one could come back.
Exactly. So
okay.
That was another reasoning point behind, which is also really frustrating. Like, I know it's expect the unexpected, this and that, but like, I don't know. Like, just let them know if it's not going to be a friggin' battle back, you know what I mean? Because then they can play a little bit better. They're not going to be playing as scared, I find.
So the answer to my question is, even if Tyler won, it sounds like he wouldn't have used the veto no matter what.
There's always a chance. Obviously, he would be more likely to use it than many other people would.
Okay.
But I would still say it was like very low.
I think had he had the veto, Janelle's campaign could have been different and maybe better and stronger and more aggressive, because she knew she wasn't having the veto used on her. So maybe she was just focusing on one aspect of it and didn't promise things that she could have, should she stay safe and Kaser, and then they have to find the votes for Kaser. Like, yeah, I don't know. They could have been different, but that's why I was cheering for Tyler to win. When I saw it was down in Memphis,
I mean, I'd rather him win. Memphis, actually, I wouldn't have, like, there would have been maybe a chance.
Yeah, because Tyler wouldn't have had to convince Cody to use it either. He would have just had to make that decision on his own instead of, convincing Cody, which would have shown Tyler's cards, which would have, I think it was a domino effect. But
okay.
What else happened?
There's something to be said for about not bamboozling the whole house week 3 when there's still 13 people or whatever, 14 people left, because it's just too many variables. When you're down to like 7 or 8, make those huge moves, because it's only one of 6 people winning the next HOH. You can kind of play your odds better. So
I don't know. It's also like been really frustrating too, because the narrative still is that Janelle and Kaser are evil, mean, nasty people, and so like people still are talking about like, oh my God, she's so horrible. Oh my God, I can't believe she says all these things about me. I can't believe she's always talking about me. Even when Nicole Franzel like made her a have-not, like, and then after she just looked like a kid that was like.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that.
I was so pissed when I saw that.
Pardon?
I was so pissed when I saw that.
But it's like.
It was so but it looked bad on Franzel, because
Eddie.
God, and even though Janelle thought she may have been coming back and that she like stayed quiet, I think it did work in her favor that she didn't stoop down to her level
It's definitely not season 6 Janelle that we saw just play out, because season 6 Janelle has been like, not a scenario or not any ceremony ended without a middle finger or a swear word or something derogatory. Like every ceremony in season 6 was so vocal.
Down, like so hard every week with no one except for Kaser. I think after Nicole went, she was like just so defeated. And I don't blame her. I mean,
she cried the first time or the second time in her other career over Nicole Francis.
I think that shows a lot. Just how she was feeling that she.
So yeah, so what I think is going on right now though is that you know, they had their, I don't know, was treatment training or how to treat other people kind of training beforehand, and I think that they probably talked about like the stereotypes of and racism and stuff like that happens within the house, and the bullying, the group mentality. And so I do feel like they had that, well, they did have that training in advance, and I think what they said that like you can't target someone of color in the first week kind of thing. Like I think that they kind of suggested that, and so I feel like that might have been one of the reasons why Kevin stayed, because at the last minute Ian had said like, oh no, I don't feel comfortable voting out Kevin kind of thing. And so now though, I think that like, you know, 3 weeks have gone by and we haven't had a person of color leave. Now I think that's like, okay, it's free reign now. We can just get rid of all the people on the outside. And so I feel as though now being targeted, every single person that's going to be going out next, unless Ian gets backdoored or something, I think that it's going to be a person of color. So it's probably going to be Kaser, then Devon, then Bailey, then probably Kevin.
No David in that? David's not a target?
David too, but they'll keep him just as a vote, like, or as a pawn. But is that the first, I've never heard of that. Is it the first year they've gotten this training?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a certain amount of tribalism that happens in the house. Be like, okay, us first then, like, it's just, but that's the scenario of the game. Like the game makes you have to have haves and have-nots and who's next on line. And people are like that in real life. But it's normally, and then it gets inflated even harder in the game, or even more in the game.
Is people don't notice that sometimes they're biased when they're deciding who is part of their group, who is part of their team, who am I going to be loyal to, and who are the others, who are we against? It tends to be, it usually is a color line.
Time and time again.
Or sex.
Every season, I feel like it's almost an 8, and it's.
Well, so now instead though, 3 women have gone back to back. Right? And now the people of color are going to go back to back. And it's going to be very hard for more than maybe one person of color to make it like far into jury. Maybe one person might make it to final 4, maybe, but it's like they're going to have to start winning out and stuff like that. But I don't really see it happening. I see that, not core 4, I don't remember what their alliance name is, but the 4 of them. So I believe it's going to be like Danny, Franzel, Cody, Enzo. Maybe Tyler in there, like not sure, but are going to be like make it the furthest, I think.
So wait, the one thing I just realized now is Enzo is not in that core group of 6 that they're talking about, or they're always talking. Why isn't Enzo in it? If he seems so in good with a lot of people.
He's in a lot of the 4 people ones, or like a lot of the smaller ones.
He's not in that one, and that's the one Memphis is in. And Memphis and Enzo aren't really like, they're fine, but they're not aligned. So Enzo is in a couple different groups. He's in the one with Devon and Bailey, and he's in the one with Danny as well. So like he's in those things, and him and Cody are. I actually think like Cody feels that Enzo's one of his top final 2 options, because he's.
I think he trusts Enzo the most.
Trusts Enzo, and he knows that like Enzo maybe isn't as aware of what's going on all the time, so maybe he thinks it's an easier win than someone like Tyler, who's obviously would be really hard to beat Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler's far superior to Cody, even in the strategical. Yeah.
They're both in like the same world right now, sort of, but Tyler is smarter for sure.
Yeah, and I think that
but I think that they might target him first because he is good at winning and he could win the vote. So.
And you think they'll target Enzo first?
Oh, it's Tyler.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I forgot that, like what you said, Michelle, is that Memphis was the one that started that 6. So if it's Memphis and he's not getting along, that makes sense. But yeah, I
before Memphis started it. It just so happened that they decided to stay good with that 6 is because he won that head of household. If he hadn't won that head of household, it just would be like the slick 6. It's like, oh, let me use it for information numbers right now, but no.
But yeah, the second week solidified that 6.
Right. Okay.
Though, until he won head of household. What else interesting happened? I mean, tons.
Well, veto isn't used. They campaign and then they vote out. Well, the votes, the eviction votes of like when Julie on last night's episode was like, so I'll get back on script now. Like, yeah, that was cool. I started with Danny's vote first. I was like, are they flipping the house? What's going on? What's going on?
Right? I think Julie's on Twitter. I think Julie knows exactly what's going on. I think she was kind of playing dumb, honestly. I don't think.
So when was that decided that Danny and Enzo were going to do that? I never saw that.
I missed that. I never saw anything about it. I never.
Might have been 2 personal choices that lined up because like Enzo did it last week.
That's exactly what I think.
But now Danny's using that as a reason.
I saw how Danny had that like canary that he has the feather in his mouth, or the cat with the canary feather in his mouth. You know, like I'm like, I vote to evict Kaiser. Like, get out of here, Danny. I like you so much, and I can't stand you right now. And so I think that she always wanted to pin the vote on one of them. I don't think that she made an agreement with Enzo. I think that Enzo happened to just do the whole thing on her own, his own. And so it actually is probably better for the fact that at least now they can say like, oh, it's both Bailey and Davon that did it, like, which would make more sense that they were voting in alignment. But
well, and when Julie was asking her like, oh, who do you think the votes were? She had 6 people that she pulled into that room that she thought were potential votes, and she went through 2 and 2, no, 2 and 2, no, and then the last 2 were Danny and Enzo. I think the last 2 that she thought would vote for her. So
yeah, how did she even put those names together to think that those were maybe her 2 votes?
All 6 of those people said, if you have the votes, kind of, I'll vote your way, and none of them told her straight up. Like even the night before, Bailey told her on the live feed, she's like, how do you think it's looking? When they're in the have not room, and Janelle was like, or Bailey was like, it's looking good, I think. And I texted Chantele right away. I was like, oh my God, Bailey's lying to Janelle right now. And Janelle kept campaigning after that because she thought, and everyone also in the live feeds was like, damn, everyone's telling Janelle that they might vote for her. In reality, we know she's going to get none. And so it was Janelle legit. And that's why I think the day of, she pulled all 6 of them into the room because all 6 of those people had said, if you have the votes, we'll vote that way.
And what did they say in that moment?
Sorry?
What did they say in that moment?
And when she pulled them into that room? I'm not sure. That was conversation I heard. The first I heard of it was them making fun of her last night, Franzel and Danny, because they were asking Cody, because Danny got pulled into the room, Franzel and Cody didn't. And so Danny was kind of replaying back what she had said. And she said that when they all got in the love room, she was like, if you're voting for me, raise your hand. And then like no one raised their hand because everyone was kind of like, whoa, like taken aback. And that's what they were making fun of her for, saying that she was so like, like, why is she doing that? Like, why is she being so abrasive? Why is she trying to figure out who's voting for her? And then it's funny on the and then on the feeds, it was funny because Enzo said he told her, I don't tell anyone who I'm voting for. But then last night, Danny said that Enzo was like, yeah, I got you. Like, he was so like shook. I think he said he would. But I know she said, I think 2 people ended up leaving because they felt uncomfortable. And then the rest wouldn't really talk to her. So
and they've been lying to her face for the last 3 weeks, and like being direct with them, being like, just tell me the truth. Just tell me.
I think that's why she got to that point. Like, just raise your hand if you're voting for me. Like, all 6 of you have been.
Why do you have to lie to that point that long? It's a full week. She can't do anything about it if you have the majority, and if you're so fucking confident. Why do you have to try to be so gross about it and like shock her and make her feel horrible? Like, why is that your intention? If there's a chance of a battle back anyway, isn't it better just to be like, hey, you're too strong of a player? That's
right.
Like,
at some point, just let her know what's going on. There's
out of respect, even like that's what pissed me off about Bailey. Like, don't tell her that it's looking good when you know damn well she's leaving.
Yeah.
So I blame all of them, even Bailey, for
So I guess what else happened on the feeds last night? Was that like the major thing that they're just making fun of her over like wanting to stay in the game?
they saw, this is like pretty gross, but they saw 2 tampon applicators in the bathroom, and apparently they deduced that the 3 people on their period were Devon, Bailey, and Janelle, and that they left them there on purpose to piss everyone else off. So that was like one conversation that was so juvenile. And then when Cody came, so they were talking like in the kitchen at first, and then Cody came out and saw them, went to the bathroom, and Nicole immediately was like, "Oh, I think I need to wash my face again." And then Danny agreed. So then they all went into the bathroom. And the 3 of them ended up staying in the bathroom for like 2 hours or so. And so then immediately Nicole starts saying that she wants, all she cares about is that Bailey goes before jury, that Bailey and Devon both need to go before jury, because no matter what, that they won't think like on their own and vote for the right person. And I'm like, Devon fucking voted for you, Nicole. Like,
yeah.
What?
So already, and then Nicole was steering it mostly about Bailey. Nicole is adamant that Bailey needs to go. And she said, Bailey doesn't like me, like all this whiny bullshit. And then Danny's basically just saying that both of them need to go. They don't really talk about Christmas much, but everything in their conversation was making, and then Bailey comes into the bathroom when all 3 of them are there to brush her teeth to go to bed. And Nicole just out of nowhere goes, I just finished my swap, or she said something like that, or Danny, one of them said that. And Bailey's like, yeah, okay, like, sure you did, like, just like kind of being like, you don't have to say that when I walk in here, I know you guys are talking about game.
Yeah.
And then they all like started talking about like other stuff, and as soon as Bailey leaves, they're like, why does she have to be like that? They're just like totally shitting on her. Like, she's like, I would never say that to someone, that's just so mean. And I was just pulling out I was like, so the whole conversation, I wanted to turn off so many times, but I was like, no, I need to like hear everything. And then Cody, they started talking about Ian. It was a lot, but everything was making Devon and Bailey, even to the tampon stuff. And then Cody goes into the bathroom, pretends he doesn't know what a tampon looks like. He's like, who left this here? What is this? After he already knew and heard their conversation. And so then they're all like laughing about it. And they're like, well, it's either Janelle. And then they're talking shit about Janelle because she donated all of her stuff to the house, apparently. Like, but they're like, no, she didn't donate it. She thought she was coming back, so she didn't even pack. Like, she's trying to be like the bigger person, but we all know she thought she was coming back. And then so they were like talking shit that she left her stuff there, and it was like the most petty bullshit. But basically, they're coming hard for.
Another petty bullshit that was happening before, like it must have been maybe Wednesday night or day, but Christmas and Bailey. So Christmas wanted to go to the wanted to have a shower. So she was waiting to have a shower. And Bailey apparently had been waiting for a shower, but the guys were in line before her. So she kind of left and then was coming back to see if it was time for her to shower. And Christmas was like, oh, I'm next. And Bailey was like, oh, well, I thought that I was going to be next. So like, I was here before, but she's like, whatever, don't worry. Like, you go. And then Chris was like, no, you go. And Bailey's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm just like feeling emotional right now. I just want to have like some time in the shower. I just want to cry. Like, I just want to like have some alone time. So you go so I can have my time after. Like, and like they went back and forth. I don't even know what is settled in the end, but then
she was like, well, do you want to just sit in there with me? Like, while I take a 5-minute shower and then you can entertain me? And Bailey's like, yeah, girl, let's go. And so they like walk to the shower. They're like rubbing each other's backs.
And then after the retelling of the story, I believe it was to Danny, correct?
Yep.
And she was like, oh, and she just looked at me, just stared me down. And like, I was so uncomfortable. And I can't believe like she was, and like completely spin it. I'm going to find you the clip. There's a clip that has both of them back to back of like what happened. And then how the retelling of the story, painting Bailey now as this monster. And like, it's just like, I can see that they're gathering up some evidence so they can have some reasons.
Who's next?
That's not race directed, but in more so, it's just like, oh, I don't feel comfortable. Oh, acting aggressive and that kind of shit.
And that's what they said on the feeds last night too. They were like, we love Bailey and Devon. We don't want anyone to think it's about that. But then they had no reason. Like they were just saying it to say it, I think. But they were talking about a lot more, I think. And then production came on and said, like, you're not allowed to talk about your diary room. And it was like loud. And I was like, ooh, I hope the rest of the house heard. that they're up talking, but they mentioned that. They said that people are going to think that they're going after them because of race. But they actually genuinely love these people outside of the game. And I'm like, no, you don't, because you're attacking them and their personality. And they're throwing Tyler into it too, saying Tyler said that on his season when Bailey didn't get her way, she threw a fit. And so if that rift starts between Tyler and Bailey, it's really going to be.
Well, and also there's been other times where people have been trying to instigate. I can't remember. I think it was towards Bailey. I can't remember. It was somebody of color that was in the house, and they said something to the effect of, "Oh, I want to put them on slob." I think they're talking about David actually, and to see if like he could, like he'll probably blow up or pop off. And I'm thinking in my head, that's exactly what Kyle did to Jamar. Was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this to him so that maybe he's going to pop off and like, you know, get himself evicted." And so it's similar kind of like manipulation, using the fact that maybe if they give them slop or they speak to them this way that they'll pop off, and like that will be a way that they can get out of the game. And so they are still, it's still ingrained obviously in these people in the house, and they're not even recognizing that, you know, these are microaggressions and they could have some, it's not good. It's not looking good. I'm so not into the gameplay this season, because it's just showing me the nastiness of some of the people playing right now. And
and that's what they ended with. Like after all that trash talking Davon and Bailey, they ended with, I can't believe that we keep letting the boys like win all these comps. Like they're just gonna win the whole way. And I'm like, well, you're already talking about getting 2 more girls out. So
just to interject with this, when Christmas was retelling the story about the shower thing, do you think if she was telling it to Tyler, let's say, she would have done the exact same thing? Or is it because every time people interact with Danny, it's always in a gossipy, bitchy kind of way, they're giving it back to her to kind of be on her level and vibe and gel with her? Do you think that's why they're doing it? And if she was telling this to any other person, she wouldn't have, or even any other girl, she wouldn't have done this?
You might be right. I don't know, but I think Christmas is my, like, I like her more than Danny and Nicole right now, because maybe that's true. Because even, I don't know, like last time she was talking to Enzo, she wasn't talking shit about Bailey or Davon on the live feed. She was.
I think that the currency of the house is to badmouth the people that they want to be targets. And so
it's good currency.
You know, if they I have a new common enemy. We have more things to make a common enemy. I know Danny has already been thinking about a new enemy, and I know that Nicole is kind of, well, Danny wants Davon out before she wants Bailey out, and whatever, Nicole Francis wants Bailey before Davon. But like, I think that it's just like the negative gossiping is a form of currency with the people in power in the house onto how to target onto the next person. And obviously, if you know that you're talking about somebody else, they're not talking about you to somebody else. And so I think that's just like the
they're all trying to hide behind it. As long as you're being shitty to someone else, the people being shitty won't be shitty to you. Like, that's unfortunate.
Mob mentality.
I don't know. We've talked for forever. Did we have anything that we missed? Michelle, do you have any secrets to divulge?
I don't. I'm feeling very like hopeless for the rest of the season, but
now it's a blowout, right? Like now it's like I want an anti-good season. So I want all the girls to get knocked off.
Pardon? All the girls?
Well, at this point, I want them to realize that because they didn't take any sort of power in their game when they had the chance, that they're not going to be rewarded for it. I want that to play out now. I want the big alliance to pick people off. I want Christmas not to win. You know what I mean? Like I want those 4 people to get to the final 4 now, and I want it's just to be a blowout. You know what I mean? Because there's no reason for me to want to go with the resistance and the people that are like, I have to just go with what I think is happening because I get too frustrated. Like it's like rooting for Fauci, like just get it together, guys. Like come on, like no, let me go vote with my own person. Let me nominate my own people. Like I can't take that happening anymore. Yeah. That I'm just going to allow myself to vote for the people that are playing better games and able to manipulate these people that don't want to take any sort of autonomy in the direction of their game.
It seems like a Tyler Cody season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if Enzo snuck in there because, like, you know, if he gets to the final three, like where he lost the last time was winning that competition, and so like maybe he has a different kind of vibe. He seems
socially, he's pretty good socially with most people.
Yeah, nobody really wants him out, and he's good with the guys, and he's good with the girls, and he's good with like Bay and Day, and so like they're not going to ever vote him out if they end up getting any power. So I think that Enzo's going to go pretty far.
That was my only thing about him getting HOH.
I don't care. as long as you put spoilers in the
sorry,
thing.
Nick.
I was honestly just thinking, do I ask them about who won HOH? I'm kind of curious, but should I just wait? But like, okay, so who won?
Oh, you didn't hear? Okay.
No, I think you're saying you're talking about Enzo. You're like, oh well, for him getting HOH. So I think I heard it's Enzo, but
so sorry.
That's fine. That's pretty fun though. That's a good curveball, I guess, to the season maybe.
I did so well.
Wait, what? Yeah, I know. We're so close to wrapping it up.
Fuck it up. Sorry.
The really hard part about it is at the end of the episode, Kaser was really close. Like, so he got to round 2 first.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so it was just.
Oh my god, that's the other thing they were talking shit about was Kaser getting. The whole combo was
just that he did well. Kaser did well and didn't win. I didn't watch any of the feeds last night. I saw obviously some tweets and stuff, but from just like how I feel the house is going, I think that Enzo is going to put up Kaser and either David or Kevin, and Kaser's a target. If Kaser wins the veto, they're going to backdoor Ian. I think that's what the plan might be.
Sorry, Nick. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, it happens.
But what I think though, like I would love the black backdoor plan to happen because I think like I want Ian to feel a little bit here because like Kaser wanted so badly to work with Ian when they're trying to build this resistance team. And then because everybody's just a little tattletale, I think Kevin went and ratted over to Danielle. And so Danielle then tells her alliance. And so then they made that 4 Prime alliance with friggin' Ian. So he felt like he was part of something so that he wouldn't be able to be swayed to be part of the resistance. And so I just want that to be a very terrible choice for his game. And so like
you're so vindictive now.
I agree.
Watch it burn.
Right?
He's not talking to anyone else except for Danny and Nicole.
Yes, I'm anti good gameplay. I want people that made shitty moves to go down.
Fair. That's how I got towards the end of our Survivor. I was like, oh, you don't think you want to work with Chantele and I? Fine, then I want you to all like someone you don't want to win wins because you cut us and we were going to be loyal to you. And then like, no, they still won.
I mean, we would have, if we had a little more time, we could have convinced one more person.
Yeah, it was lightning fast. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not really that excited for anything that's going on. Like it was kind of like with the safety suite last week, you knew like it really didn't matter other than the fact that like, oh yeah, because of the fact that Davon wanted Enzo to, I don't think they showed this on the episode. Davon really wanted to get a punishment. She's like, I just want to do something. I've never had a punishment on Big Brother. Like, will you give me safety, whatever? And then they turned it into this whole thing that she doesn't feel safe with them. And so like, oh, maybe we should get out Davon because like she doesn't trust us. And she's like, she doesn't know this, but like she really seemed to just have wanted a punishment in costume. And it just so happens that it has, you know, a safety attached, but like, she was really like even in the diary room I think she was saying that she really wanted to have a costume.
Yeah, whether or not that's what she actually wanted, that's what she portrayed in the episode in the diary room, and so I think they'll feel stupid watching it back. But
well, everyone's on high alert, so any words you say you're gonna read into them probably in this kind of game. So
it's a dumb move on her part. Like
yeah.
And then it even showed Tyler. He said, like, the first thing I did right when Enzo named Christmas is I looked right at Devon and she was seething. And I'm like, well, that's just more guilt. Like, it's making you look even more guilty. Like, her intentions were because she doesn't feel safe. You know?
Well, yeah.
This gameplay. I mean, I'm sure that we missed a gazillion things, but we talked about a gazillion things as well. Yeah. I mean, we'll probably know by now who the nominees are. We won't tell you, Nick.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I won't fuck that up.
I'm sure that's up now. And then tomorrow's the veto. But it's like I only want Kaiser to win. It's like last thing. Like I'm gonna want Kaiser to win the veto. If he doesn't win the veto, then I'm going team like demolish the.
I'm gonna go full BB21 and just stop paying attention. Like I'll be watching, but
I kind of have to pay attention because I have to.
I mean, like I'll pay attention, but I'm not gonna have any motive or.
Yeah. It's kind of like that's what happened to me in season 19 as like I'm just watching it because I love Big Brother, but it's going terribly. Even season 20 felt the same. All of those seasons, I'm just like when the resistance leaves, my desire for real stakes and care in what happens in the game. And like even last year had some hopes a few times with Nicole, and then she just made very bad decisions and listened to Cliff, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not even like these people are so bad at this game. I can't watch it. It's so annoying.
I want them. I guess they did with the safety suite, but they're basically just doing basic season of Big Brother. Like nothing is different or changed. I want that kind of not necessarily a gimmick, but I want there to be more twists or more spice to this season.
Do you want to hear the theory?
Because the house guests themselves aren't delivering, but I think the structure of the game could deliver. I don't know. Hopefully it starts in the next week or 2 or 3.
The last I was hoping for that, like, in Big Brother Canada 4, how 2 house guests went that were evicted. They went into that room.
Yeah.
And, like they were able to spy on them a little bit, and then it was a house vote back in. But it would have been amazing if it was an audience vote back in or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that would have been something that would be in alignment with like Big Brother and things that have happened before that wouldn't necessarily look like some twist that was only there to save Janelle, but it was. And
so I'll let Michelle remind me to tell you guys my theory after Nick comes up, because
after Nick leaves,
my theory from what they've been talking about.
Okay, well, Nick, close your ears. I want to hear.
Okay, bye.
Oh no, they said there's gonna be 2 doubles, and so I think from the 2 doubles, those 4 people are gonna go into because they gave them the end date, and they're like, if there's only 8 weeks left, there's 13 or 12 people now, there has to be 2 double evictions, and so I think those 2 doubles, those 4 people may battle back. I'm not sure.
You think there's gonna be a battle back? I don't. They're telling them everything.
Well, because of that room, I think so. I think that they'll
battle back in jury maybe.
I think they'll keep the people from the double eviction in there, and then the people from the next double in there maybe, and then I don't know.
Okay, so you like not like Keisha has no chance of coming back. You mean in the bit like
future, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Because they think there's two double evictions coming up. So
you wouldn't have made the safety suite look like that. You could have just done it in the backyard. Just you make a whole fancy room just for the alliteration of safety suite. No, that it's gonna come into play. It has to.
But. Absolutely. Okay. This is everything. Thanks for chatting with me on a Friday. Holy guacamole. If you made it this far, I'm impressed. Also find all of us online. Nick, where can people reach you if they're looking?
You can find me on Instagram at nick.rovers, and I'm Facebook Nick Rovers.
And Michelle?
On Instagram at Mish Nash.
See, it's time for this to be done. And Brazil?
On Instagram at BBZill.
And you can find me at Fran or at Reality Realness with 3 S's on Instagram. And on Instagram, you can find me everywhere else because I have a link in the bio. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. Make sure you subscribe right down below, ring that bell, and you'll be notified whenever you go live again. Give us your comments as to what you want us to talk about if we didn't cover it today. Yeah. We'll see you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.